Guys, about a job that I had, which sounds boring, but it was really exciting. So, preface, I lived in a swing state, which means basically a political election was coming up and both parties were campaigning, trying to get people to go for their party. I'm not much of a campaigner, but I found this job where I could walk around, knock on people's door, and simply ask them if they were planning on voting. That's all I had to do. Sounded fake, sounded terrifying, and I did not want to do it. But all checked out, it was all legitimate, and I got paid to walk around neighborhoods asking people not to vote for a specific candidate, but if they were going to vote. Now, it was a little shady because the only people who I was reminding to vote were the ones assigned to the candidate who was funding me, and that's because the the Biden campaign was struggling to campaign in my state. So instead of doing that, they were just kind of having people remind voters to vote for them. And if you were registered as a Democratic voter, then your address was on their files. So I'll just go to all the addresses on their files and just remind them to vote. Took nothing more. So maybe a little shady, I don't know, but I was getting paid. So I'm okay with it. But my first day, see, I walk a lot already. Like, I try to get at least 20,000 steps a day. And this way I was going to get paid doing my walks, basically. Problem is, I avoid driving as much as I can. So I walked down to the office. They asked if I had reliable transportation. And I told them yes. Because I'm so used to walking that I figured, of course, my legs are reliable. Didn't mean that as a lie, I just meant that I wasn't going to change my mind and decide I can't walk all of a sudden. So going into headquarters with them knowing that I had reliable transportation, by my own definition, I felt like I was going to be safe, but they told me, today's training, you'll come into the office, you'll get everything explained to you. We'll give you some pamphlets so you can read through them and you can go home. And at the end of the first hour, they were like, okay, Cole. They were like, okay, Wisp, that is my name. Wisp is on my birth certificate, so they say Wisp. Okay, Wisp, your location is 6 miles away. I was like, okay, it's going to take me quite some time to walk to, so I had to come clean. I told them, hey, I thought today was training, so I just walked here. One of my bosses drove me to my location. Very nice of them. And they told me at 5 o'clock, meet me right back here, and I'll take you home. I'm like, oh, wow, that's so kind of you. Thank you. Still kind of thought it was training day, or whatever. But, so, it is what it is. But they drove me 6 miles out, left me. I had no car. I was in a new place. And because orientation was entirely on the phone, and the app that we used to track the houses was entirely mobile, my phone died within an hour and a half. So now I'm stuck here for the remaining 5 hours of my shift with no phone. I have never been in this part of town before. I was very terrified. Luckily, I was able to see which houses I needed to go to, and I probably remembered a solid 30% of them. So I went around the houses, kept on walking, knocking on every door, giving them a pamphlet, and getting the heck out of there because I didn't actually know if they were the ones who needed the pamphlet or not, and I didn't want to stick around to find out. So then I would leave. Now, at this point in time, I have no clue where I am. I was following what I thought I remembered being my map that I was supposed to walk, but it led me through this bridge, and under the bridge was pure desert. I guess that makes it an overpass. Pure desert. And then there was a hill, and then I was lost. Like, gone. So, like, everything I knew about my city was different and gone. So here I am stranded, meeting someone back at here, which I no longer know what that means at 5. So I turn around, I walk on some dirt until I see the road, and when I'm on the road, I see hope in the form of a Best Buy truck speeding down the highway. there are two reasons a Best Buy truck would be on the road. And those are because they would be driving toward Best Buy or driving away from Best Buy. I figured I had a 50-50 shot, and I decided to follow the truck in hopes that it was driving toward a Best Buy. So here I am in the dirt, trying not to step on actual road because I am terrified of getting run over. Following the Best Buy truck, it just goes straight, but I see where it's going to turn, probably 2 miles up away from me. I turn around and there's this gigantic plaza with a Best Buy in it, and I know I'm safe because if there's one thing I know about Best Buy, it's that they have phone chargers all over the place. The problem is that plaza, after my walking, is now separated by a very large ditch with lots of thorny bushes in the middle of the desert. But desperate to get somewhere safe, and at this point kind of thirsty, I slide down into the ditch, trek through it. Before I know it, I'm on the other side, not having been bitten by a snake, and all I have to do is climb up the ditch, so I start climbing. And when I reach the top, there are 4 people in a parked car chatting. They're all over here talking, minding their own business. And then there's me climbing up my hill. They turn around, stare at me. They see me. They look at me as I ascend this hill triumphantly, if I may add. I was very proud. They turn around, go back to talking like I didn't exist. They saw a man crawl out of a ditch, and it did not faze them at all. So I walked past them, got to the Best Buy. First thing I did was go right to the display phones, because the display phones are always charging, and all I had to do was unplug it, plug my phone into the display charger. To the beautiful moment, my phone comes back to life. No missed calls. It's 5:30. In 30 minutes, my boss, who's going to pick me up, isn't looking for me. So I call in. She's like, "Oh, I meant you should get an Uber." So I get an Uber. I'm like, "Hey, can you pick me up at this restaurant?" There was a restaurant there. The person was like, "Sure." So I go to the restaurant because at this point I am hungry as heck and I do not care. The person's going to pick me up at the restaurant. They just decide not to come. I go to the restaurant. I eat. Sit in the restaurant for 45 minutes. No dice. No one's coming. And then, with the last bit of life in my phone, I get notified that my driver is not coming. They have given up. I have to go back to Best Buy, charge my phone again, and then finally I get someone who decides that they're actually going to come through and help me out. And there I was. 30, walking out of a restaurant that for some reason sat me, charging my phone on the display charger at Best Buy. I drink like 3 water bottles around me after I crawled out of a ditch, only to be noticed but not taken note of. But I made it. Going back home that night, it was probably 8 o'clock by the time I got home. And man, it felt good. I'd experienced a whole new side of town that I've actually been back to once. And that one time was on the last day of my job when they sent me back there to finish the houses that I didn't finish the first day. I still didn't have a car.